10-Minute Murder contains depictions of actual crimes. What you are about to hear is real and violent in nature. Discretion is advised. This is 10-Minute Murder.
Welcome to 10-Minute Murder, the brief and bingeable true crime podcast. I'm Joe, I'm the host, and thank you for being here. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. I'm a little bit weird, and we talk about true cases of murder on this show. And sometimes my dog Harper snores or barks in the background, but we just kind of ignore that because she's adorable. I hope after the episode today you'll consider subscribing. It's free to subscribe and listen, and I know many shows on many different platforms are beginning to ask for a subscription fee. I have no plans for that, just so you know. The most I'll ever ask you for is to sit through or skip through a few commercials, and maybe come massage my shoulders after a long day. It's not mandatory, but just consider it. The story today is heartbreaking. A couple that from the outside looked like they were amazing people, doing a part to help kids get out of the foster care system and into a permanent, loving home, something that so many of them dream about happening one day. But in March of 2018, Jennifer and Sarah Hart took their own lives along with their 6 adopted children. This is the murder of the Hart family. Jennifer and Sarah Hart were both from South Dakota. In college, they both transferred to the same school, Northern State University, which is in Aberdeen, South Dakota. Both Jennifer and Sarah majored in elementary education. While going to NSU, they officially became a couple. They made it Facebook official and everything. Jennifer said that once they outed themselves from being closeted lesbians, they faced immediate ostracism. People around them didn't accept their lifestyle and made it known. Ordinarily, I'd give some kind of life advice, like forget what other people say and just live your life in a way that makes you happy. I'd probably quote Mark Twain, "What other people think of me is none of my business." But I'm a straight white man, and I can't even begin to understand or imagine what it's like to endure ridicule and abuse from closed-minded people like that. Jennifer and Sarah decided to move away once they had taken all they could. They moved to Alexandria, Minnesota in 2004, then to West Lynn, Oregon, and then on to Clark County, Washington, just outside the city limits of Woodland. In 2005, Sarah legally changed her last name to Hart to match her partner's. In 2009, same-sex marriage wasn't legal in every state, so they went to Connecticut, where they were married. Although they both had gone to college, majoring in elementary education, only one of them graduated, and they held jobs at different department stores. At least 50% of the income the family depended on to survive later came from state funds received covering care for the 6 adopted children. Before ever adopting the 6 kids, Jennifer and Sarah had a 15-year-old girl they became foster parents of, and pretty typical of fostering children, regular visits to therapy. And one therapy visit for this 15-year-old became the last time she ever saw Jennifer and Sarah. They dropped her off for therapy, and the therapist had to tell her that the Harts were not coming back. They didn't think the placement was the right fit. She was abandoned again and shuffled back into the system. 1 week after leaving their foster child at therapy, Jennifer and Sarah adopted the first 3 of their eventual 6, Abigail, Hannah Jean, and Marcus. They all came from Colorado County, Texas. This happened on March 4th, 2006, with a formal adoption processing in September. 2 years later, in 2008, they adopted 3 more. Sierra, Devontae, and Jeremiah had all come from the Houston area. They each had the same mother but different fathers, and their mother lost them as a result of repeated crack cocaine abuse. When Devontae was 12 years old, a photo of him gained national attention. A picture was taken during a 2014 protest in Portland while people across the country were coming together to dispute the shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. When tensions were high at the protest, a teary-eyed Devontae embraced a police officer. It was called "The Hug Felt Round the World." Jennifer Hart was very active on Facebook, using it as a way to falsely portray an image of a happy family that loved each other. She rambled on about how amazing their family trips were. She also dabbled in politics and race. By the way, I haven't mentioned this before, but Jennifer and Sarah are both white, and all their adopted children were black. A record of abuse of the children dated back to 2008, when the family was living in Minnesota. Hannah had bruises on her arm, and when a teacher asked about it, she said that Jennifer hit her with a belt. The authorities were contacted, and within a few months, Jennifer and Sarah pulled all of the children out of school. That absence lasted for 1 year. By 2010, the kids were back in school, and Abigail said that she had what she called an owie on her back and stomach. When asked what happened, she said that she had found a penny, but Jennifer and Sarah didn't believe that she had found it. They held her head under cold water and hit her. When authorities were called, all of the children said that they had been denied food and spanked all the time. Sarah took responsibility, saying that she was the sole person to blame for that. She pled guilty to assault and was sentenced to 1 year of community service. 1 year later, Hannah mentioned one day to the school nurse that she had not eaten anything the entire day. Sarah claimed that she was, quote, playing the food card, whatever that means, and told them just to give her some water. After that incident, all 6 of the children were taken out of school again and were homeschooled. They never returned to school again. In 2013, after being notified of allegations of abuse from authorities in Minnesota, Oregon had started their own investigation into the Hart family. Interviews of everyone in the family happened separately. They even talked to people outside of the family that might know what's going on. 2 family friends said that the children were forced to raise their hands before speaking, could not wish each other happy birthday, and could not laugh at the dinner table. There were other reports that the children were poorly fed and looked small for their ages. One family friend reported that Jennifer had ordered a pizza for the children, but each was only allowed to have 1 small slice. When Jennifer discovered that the pizza was gone, she punished the children by not feeding them breakfast and forcing them to lie on their beds for 5 hours. Friends of the family stated that the children acted scared to death of Jennifer and like trained robots. And remember, Sarah was the one that claimed responsibility for the prior abuse when she pled guilty to assault. When Jennifer was interviewed, she said that any family problems were the result of others not being tolerant to 2 lesbian mothers with 6 African American children. The investigation concluded without enough or any actual evidence of the Harts being guilty of anything. The Hart family moved to Woodland in 2017. In August of that year, Hannah Hart jumped out of her bedroom window at 1:30 a.m. to try to contact the next-door neighbors, pleading with them, "Don't make me go back. They're racists, and they abuse us." Soon afterwards, Jennifer and Sarah found Hannah and brought her back home. Jennifer later attempted to explain this by saying that Hannah was lying, that the children occasionally acted out because they were drug babies, and that Hannah's biological mother was bipolar. The neighbors still reported this incident to the authorities. Afterward, those same neighbors were also in contact with Devante, who was constantly begging for food, telling them that his mothers withheld food as punishment and that the children were sometimes abused. This, combined with the earlier incident with Hannah, made them call to report the Harts to Child Protective Services. CPS workers tried to reach the Harts twice, once on March 23, 2018, 3 days before the murders, and once the day of. On March 26, 2018, Jennifer and Sarah Hart, along with their 6 children, were in the family SUV on California State Route 1. Jennifer was at the wheel. She was drunk. Sarah and a few of the kids had large amounts of Benadryl in their systems. After an investigation of the scene and the black box, it was determined that Jennifer intentionally drove the SUV off the side of a cliff, where the vehicle crashed 100 feet below, killing all of them. It landed upside down on a Pacific Ocean beach. The bodies of everyone except Devante were found in or nearby the SUV. He was in the vehicle at the time of the crash, but they were unable to find his body. Criminal prosecution of the murder of the children wasn't possible, obviously, because Jennifer and Sarah both died in the crash as well. Before the crash, Sarah Hart made Google searches inquiring about Benadryl and the nature of drowning. According to an incident report following the crash, it was reported that Sarah Hart told a coworker that she wished someone had told her it's okay not to have a big family. Then she and Jennifer would not have adopted the children. That's today's 10-Minute Murder, the brief and bingeable true crime podcast. Thank you for listening today, and if you have a story you'd like for me to possibly cover, you can email it to 10minutemurder@gmail.com. You can easily connect with this podcast on social media. Just click the link in the show notes of this episode. Or, even easier, just type 10-Minute Murder into Facebook or Instagram. Before you go, subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening right now, and you'll never miss an episode. And if you have friends that are into weird true crime stories like this that just happen to be super brief, then tell them about 10-Minute Murder. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.